A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to talk to the Lightning Round podcast about some defensive hot takes. Today, we're finishing that conversation with hot takes on offense. Remember, these are hot takes, so if you hear me say something crazy about Quentin Johnston or Josh Palmer or something like that, that was the spirit of this video. So we're going to start things off. Without further ado, here we are talking about Josh Palmer.
I do believe Josh Palmer is going to have a career year this year.
In my head. God damn it.
Sorry, Jamie. Sorry, man.
It's all right.
But maybe not in the way that some people think. I don't necessarily think he may very well be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. He may. I'm not going to say he may just miss it. Maybe we're talking about somewhere in between 8 to mid 900s, but I think he'll definitely like double up on his career TD reception mark, which I think is 4. So I would say that he'll go for like at least 8 TDs this year. He's going to run it up on the scoreboard, I think, specifically once they get inside of the 20s. I think because of his route running prowess and the way that he attacks the ball, the Chargers are probably going to take some more shots once they get into the red zone, specifically we're talking about against those teams that they're just really, really grinding it out against. And if Palmer can get into some one-on-one situations, specifically because he's not a smaller guy. Palmer's like 6'1", over 200 pounds, I believe. So I don't think people give him credit for being as big a receiver as he actually is and as physical as he is. But I think he's going to come up with some pretty key catches when the team just kind of wants to mix it up once they get into the red zone. So for me, Josh Palmer, again, not necessarily like huge numbers as a wide receiver because this offense isn't going to really be predicated on the pass. It's going to be built on the run. Passing game is going to be built off of that, or complement that, should I say. But Palmer's probably going to be one, if not the top performer in the passing game. And like I said before, I think he doubles up on his TDs from so far in his career as far as his high. So give me 8 on Josh Palmer this year.
It's like you're reading my notes, dude. Stop it. No, I totally agree with Craig. I was going to say one of my takes was going to be that I think Palmer is going to go for 80 plus catches, and I could see somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 yards and 7 to 10 touchdowns. So right in the range that Craig's talking about. I think what we know about Herbert is he's going to lean on the guys that he trusts. And right now, pretty much the only receiver they have on this roster that he trusts, that he has any kind of a rapport with, is Palmer. So I think Palmer is going to be the guy who's moving the chains a lot. I think he's going to come up with some big plays down the field. They have shown the desire to throw the ball to him deep out of play action at times. So I think he's going to have a very solid year and surprise some people. You know, I don't think he's a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, but I think he is for the Chargers. And I think over 1,000 yards and 7 to 10 touchdowns is not out of the realm of possibility.
He did have that clutch catch last year along the left sideline, I think against the Raiders late in the game.
He's had a bunch of clutch catches.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Josh Palmer, there's a lot to like with him. He's got all the tools in the world. He's a really good route runner. He catches the ball really well. He's had some really nice one-handed catches. It's always been just for some reason he hasn't been able to put it all together and like take that next step. He's had some injuries at times, but yeah, that's a guy that I think could really emerge once we get into training camp and become that number 1 wide receiver that Justin Herbert wants him to be, or that I guess the Chargers want him to be. I think I still am I'm not sleeping on Quentin Johnston, man. There's something about it.
We're about to end the show.
If you utilize him the way that he should be used, I think he could actually have that same kind of season that we're talking about Josh Palmer having. I mean, you use those guys in different ways. Like Quentin Johnston, he's not as good of a route runner or anything like that. Can't really catch the ball in contested catch situations, but you see a guy like Deebo Samuel have success with the 49ers. I mean, I think you utilize him that same kind of way, which is what Gerg Roman is trying to do. I think he can have a lot of success as well and help the offense just as much as Josh Palmer can as well.
I think you could have stopped that. He can't really catch the ball. You could have just left it there. He can't really catch the ball.
Well, that was like a lot of the rookie jitters, I think.
And
See,
those jitters, those
That was
jitters
the college
exist in
jitters
college
too.
Yeah.
my hot
Yes.
take was going to be DJ Chark was going to take over wide receiver 3 over Quentin Johnston, but I think that goes like hard against your QJ take, so I don't want to bring that up.
I was
Okay.
gonna say Palmer and McConkey outperform Quentin Johnston.
Oh, that's easy.
Here's the problem.
That one
It's a
surprised me.
comparison with QJ when you're talking about Debo. Number one, the ability to catch the ball. Secondly, physicality. So you could understand wanting to get him the ball in short areas and allow him to go to work. But one of the things that makes Debo is the fact that he's essentially a running back after he gets the ball. QJ makes guys miss, which is, again, an awesome trait to have, but he's not physical, and they're going to have to scheme him open off of the line of scrimmage because he gets destroyed if there's any contact off snap. If he gets jammed, DB gets hands on him, he's pretty much done. His timing gets thrown off. He doesn't recover and stack well against press coverage. So you're talking about someone that you're going to have to go out of your way to get the ball to, but you're only going to be able to do it in certain situations. You're going to have certain play calls for him to where you have to get him open in space. You're probably going to have to motion him a bunch to keep him free and definitely play him in the slot to give him that extra space to maneuver at the snap of the ball. I don't know, man. From an athletic standpoint, taller, he's a glider. He can definitely move. The problem is the one thing that you need to be able to do at the position, he hasn't proven he can actually do. So you got to get past that point first, unless you want to just have him in the backfield and just like pitch him the ball or something and try to let him go to work from there. But I wouldn't advise that.
We saw some end arounds that didn't quite, and some jet sweeps didn't quite work. I don't know if that's the good thing to start exploring again.
Wasn't really getting there, but I mean,
Couldn't
look,
really
we all want QJ to succeed. It's just
of course,
we're at the point of we were all skeptical for that draft 2 years ago. It was not what we wanted. Specifically, me. Everyone knows how big of a Zay Flowers fan I was, but overall, QJ has ability. I just don't know his overall ceiling is as high as what some believe it to be, because some of the things that are issues for him, they're not a technique thing. You can get better at catching the ball. He's just not a natural hands catcher. That's kind of a thing that doesn't really just improve overnight. He can get better at it, but we're talking about a high volume guy that you're going to target 7 to 10 times a game. I don't know if he's ever going to be that.
I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
No.
But I think, there are specific use cases where he can excel. And Sanjay Lal, he really encouraged me the way that he was talking about being able to coach wide receivers to not drop the ball. He was talking about, okay, what kind of drop is it? And he's got these specific drills that he can run to help those guys out. He helped out DK Metcalf. That's, the big name that everyone talks about with Sanjay Lal. Their games are not similar. DK Metcalf and Quentin Johnston are not similar receivers. But, the point is that he can help a raw wide receiver. And so that is what gives me some hope about Quentin Johnston. And also there was, he's not a physical runner, but I watched painfully every single play that Quentin Johnston had last year with the Chargers. And he was a good blocker. Like, he was actually a pretty good blocker at that wide receiver spot. He showed it as soon as he was on the field. In preseason week 1, all the way through the end of the year, he never showed, bad effort or anything in the blocking game. And so that's something that also, is kind of a small thing, but in this Jim Harbaugh offense, that's what gets you on the field.
Yeah, I think also you got to take into account, Joe Ortiz had talked very glowingly of Quentin Johnston and his draft process in that year when they were, right behind the Chargers. It felt like, at least reading somewhat into it, that they were pretty prepared to get QJ if he was there. It just felt like they really, really saw a lot of good things in him, and he was very glowing, and it felt like the room in Baltimore liked him. So there's obviously something there that some people like, and Ortiz is one of them. And so it feels like they're going to give him a lot of opportunities. So he'll get a shot for sure. Hopefully the drops solve themselves. I hope.
Here's the thing, though. Baltimore doesn't have the best history of wide receivers.
I was just gonna bring that
Hey,
up.
don't bring that up. I was trying to spin this, dude.
I know. As much as I love Joe Ortiz and he was my number one pick for a GM this offseason, that was the one thing that kind of made me cringe a bit, because it's also like you want to pump the dude up. You want him to feel confident about himself. So I figured maybe that has a little bit to do with it. And I thought about it a little bit deeper. Yeah, before Zay, lots of swings and misses. So I don't know. Hopefully it works out. Nothing but the best for the kid. And you just need to see some level of improvement year over year. So, yeah, I understand being a rookie and having those jitters, but dude, you got to do the one thing that the position requires first and foremost before anything else.
My two questions with QJ outside of catching the ball are: can you make him want to be physical? Because right now I'm not sure he wants to be physical at the catch point when he's getting tackled with the ball in the air. I don't think he really wants to be particularly physical. And I don't know that you can make him want to do that. The other thing is he made a lot of people miss in college. But who plays defense in the Big 12? Nobody.
Fair point.
So he's playing against bigger, stronger, faster, better coached athletes at this level on the outside. So is that move that he uses, that spin move that he uses to make people miss after the catch, is that something that's going to translate at the NFL level, or is he going to go down at the first inkling of contact? So I think there's still enough questions about him to not really know what to expect. The catching the ball is obviously a big thing. There were several times last year where it seemed like he didn't know the play and he was out of position or just didn't execute what he was supposed to be doing. Is he going to be physical, and is he going to make people miss the way he did in college? So, like Craig said, we all want to see him succeed because the Chargers are better for it if he does. But it just seems like they spent a lot of draft capital on wide receivers this year. They've still got Palmer, who Herbert trusts. Is Herbert going to throw him the ball in the clutch after all the drops they had last year? I don't know that Herbert's going to be trusting him anytime soon.
And the really weird thing about his game, and I'm sure everyone's witnessed this, is that it doesn't match his frame. Like, he's not the biggest guy as far as weight's concerned, but he's still 6'3". He could stand to put on a little bit more size, kind of gangly, but for a guy, when you look at him, when you watched him at TCU, the game didn't really fit I guess the aesthetic. Like, he looks like at all. The frame, there you go. That's the term I'm looking for. So he doesn't play to his size or what his size would suggest he plays at. Even at TCU, like, you would see him lose in those contested catch situations, just wouldn't be strong at the point of attack. When we're talking about making guys miss, I think sometimes he catches people off guard because they don't expect a guy to, like, 6'3" to run like a 5'10", 5'11" wide receiver in space. So maybe it's something that he can use to his benefit, but he's also going to have to add a little bit more strength to his repertoire, because you just can't expect to make everyone miss in the open field. Like Jamie said, you're going against some bigger, stronger, and in a lot of cases faster athletes who aren't, going to fall for it. They're going to exercise better technique. Being a taller wide receiver is one thing that I was always coached. I mean, I'm 6 foot, so it's a little bit different. But one thing that I always was taught on the defensive side is that you have to watch a receiver or running back. You have to watch their waist. Wherever their waist goes, they have to go. So if you're looking at guys on the defensive side of the field that, live by that and were taught the same technique, then beating them in open space isn't going to be easy when you're a taller guy, because your waist is easier to see, as opposed to like a 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" wide receiver who can get a little bit lower than you, makes it tougher. So he's going to, again, have to incorporate some more strength into his game, be someone that can take a hitch and get another 5 yards out of it, not just because he made a guy miss in space, but because he ran through an arm tackle. It's just something he's going to have to figure out how to add to his game. So hopefully Ben Herbert can put some more sand in his trousers, so to speak.
Now, Craig, Jamie, Michael had a hot take. You guys just took the last 15, 20 minutes to tell him why he's wrong and why QJ stinks. And I don't think that's how this works.
But listen, going back
That's
to
why
the,
everybody thinks we hate Quentin Johnston. This is why.
Yeah, I wonder why.
we're going back to the variance, right? Like there is a scenario. I think we can all agree there is a scenario that he does improve a lot, and he becomes like a solid contributor on this offense for 5-6 years, right?
Sure. If anybody can do it, Harbaugh can do it.
So it's just about that variance, you know. And there's also a very real scenario. Who knows what the likelihood is? You know, it's a lot of this kind of comes down to you know, just your personal mindset. And if Quentin Johnston has a good mindset, he's willing to do what it takes to improve his game. He's got all the tools. You know, he's got the physical tools. He also has the tools with the coaches. It's going to be up to him to put in the work. And so that's why we have that variance. He's going to need to put in the work to get to his ceiling. There's also a scenario where he just, you know, either he doesn't put in the work or something happens, you know, life happens, you know. But yeah, we all want Quentin Johnston to do well. It's a hot take for a reason, but you know, there is a scenario where he does contribute to this offense for 5-6 years, and he's a good contributor.
This pours salt in the wound a little bit. I know it, but you know who would be amazing in this offense?
Zay Flowers.
Get ready, Jamie. Brandon Ayuk.
Oh,
Dude, don't do that to me. Come on. Come on. What are you doing to me, man?
But the thing is, the sad part about this is we've done this year after year. I understand, but he would fit even more so into his offense than he would have before when we wanted him to be a part of it. He is the ideal fit wide receiver for this offensive scheme. It's just a shame that, you know,
Craig just poking me. He's just
it
going
hurts
out of
me
his
too,
way.
man. It hurts me
screw
too.
with
I
me.
know.
That's good. You know,
Just thinking out loud.
Oh, well, I didn't get to do a hot take, and since you poked at Jamie, I'm going to poke at you a little bit, Craig. And this has been bubbling in me a little bit, and I want to hurt Craig's feelings a little bit here on this hot take, and that is Isaiah Spiller gets cut this offseason. He's gone. You've got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Kamani Vidal. You had Elijah Dotson, who lit up the preseason. Spiller, who can't get any run. I know it's a whole new offense, but what does he do better than the three in front of him? He's gone. They got to fill in other positions. You need corners that can play multiple positions. You need safeties to be able to switch around. You know, they want to bring on 9 offensive linemen. I'm sure the last man out, Isaiah Spiller, is my hot take for Craig.
Listen, man, J.K. Dobbins has basically got to be the $6 million man in order to make this work this season.
That's
like,
my second hot take. He's helping
together with like pins and staples. Like, how is this going to work? First of all, I hope nothing but help for J.K. Dobbins. I'm not wishing injury on him. I'm just saying, as a rebuttal here. Also,
wait, we get rebuttals?
No, I'm sorry. I have to, because I'm going to defend my dude until there's no reason. We've been down this road before. We've done this with a former player who I will not name. But so Isaiah Spiller was recruited by Jim Harbaugh to Michigan. I will say that it was a thing. So Jim clearly saw something in him. And we still don't know what he's capable of at this point. He showed flashes in the games that we did see him play in. He just like running backs have to get like oiled up a little bit, man. You have to give them opportunities to go. And when we're talking about later in the season, when the team's out of it, why do you not have this guy getting more reps? I don't understand it.
Craig loves Spiller so much. He's talking about oiling him up. I'm uncomfortable.
Hey.
We got some fireworks here.
He didn't pause at all. He went
no, man. No, there's no pausing in this.
I haven't tried to get him to pause. He just kept going.
I'll roll him up. That's my guy. If you need
flip
that. He got what he said.
Yeah, man.
I'll oil him up. He's
Flip
my
it,
guy.
man. Flip it. I'm sure I'll hear about this later.
Mike, there's your exclamation point on your podcast, dude.
Perfect. Yeah.
That shows up in the Discord.
Oh, I'm getting it. Yeah. Somebody's gonna clip that. I'm ready for it. I accept it.
So
he could very well be on his way out. I want him to be able to. I just want to see something in camp. Give me something in camp to feel good about. I'm sure he'll get an opportunity. There's no reason why he shouldn't in a scheme that's going to be run first. He'll get every opportunity. If it doesn't work in camp, it just wasn't meant to be, and maybe he's just not that guy. I'll have to be okay with that.
So Garrett mentioned him earlier. What do we think of DJ Chark? what are our thoughts on Chark in this offense, his ability to stay healthy and produce with Justin Herbert? Because he seems like a guy who I think he makes a team, first of all. And with his speed and ability to make plays down the field, I feel like he's a guy who could add an element that this offense has been missing and really help kind of make them a little bit more explosive in the passing game, in a limited role. Like, he doesn't have to be on the field and catch 60, 70, 80 balls to help change this offense. He could catch 40, 45 passes, average 18, 19 yards a reception, and really help take the top off the defense. What do you guys think?
I thought DJ Chark is the wide receiver that the Chargers wanted Quentin Johnston to be last year. That's kind of what they want, or what they wanted him to be. He was put in that position. And DJ Chark, he's a limited receiver also, but he's limited in the sense that he is that X wide receiver. You can just have him run a straight route and he'll be able to catch the ball. He had a pretty good contested catch rate last season. If I recall correctly, I think he had 9 drops or something. Like he's struggled with drops. Not a great route runner, but a big-bodied, fast wide receiver. He definitely adds the speed element to this offense, and that outside wide receiver that the Chargers were lacking prior to signing him.
Yeah, that's going to be your guy whose role will be to stretch the defense. It's something that they were lacking sorely. We know speed has always been an issue for this team, so they tried to address it this offseason, and he's going to be your play-action shot guy, I think. When we're talking about just vertical speed, McConkey is going to be someone who gets some pretty good run off of play action as well. But I think when we're talking about just a pure vertical guy, Chark's probably 1A in that regard on this team. He's not going to be high volume, like you mentioned, but he'll have some opportunities to make some big plays down the field, which is why it's going to be very, very important that the offensive line kind of establishes themselves as a team that can be dominant in the run game, so that it frees him up on the outside for those one-on-one opportunities. And like you mentioned, Michael, he did have some pretty good contested catch numbers last year, so it's something to be encouraged by. I would say that the Chargers made a mistake thinking Quentin Johnston was that player, because he's not shown himself to be that guy. But I think they tried to pigeonhole him into the Mike Williams role once Mike went out, which, we saw that didn't work out well, because it's not how he's set to be utilized. But as far as Chark is concerned, I think everyone, as you can see, you're looking at the chess pieces in the wide receiver room. Everyone seems to have like a different ability overall. You've got 2 guys that can do a little bit of everything, or really one. Palmer's probably your most all-around wide receiver. Chark's kind of sort of going to be that, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but I don't know how much underneath intermediate stuff he's going to get. You can probably see him doing really well deep, see him on crossers, things of that nature. They may run him on a couple of like smoke screens to see if they can get him the ball in space to allow him to do some stuff with his speed there. But he's not going to be the most toolsy of the wide receivers.
I mean, I could see a scenario where he gets more snaps than Quentin Johnston, just as a guy you want to get on the field that adds a different element, and also a guy that you can use as a decoy, whether it's, running in the backfield or on jet sweeps or whatnot. I feel like he's a pretty good fit. The hands are definitely questionable, and he's definitely on the downside of his career, but I think it's a nice little added element to this wide receiver room that they just don't have. So, I could see a world in which him and Quentin Johnston kind of battle it out for wide receiver 3, and Chark gets on the field a lot just as a guy that can take a defender with him down the field.
Justin Herbert graded as an elite quarterback in the intermediate part of the field last year. He was like 90.0 and above by PFF. And DJ Chark did his best work in the intermediate part of the field last year for the Panthers, even though that Panthers offense was very, very bad. No one really particularly was very good, but DJ Chark played his best ball in that intermediate part of the field. So that's kind of like, I think that's by PFF 10 to 20 yards. And so middle of the field towards the sideline, that 10 to 20 yard range, Justin Herbert, he's got that arm, man, to throw those corner routes, 15-yard corners. I think you could see that a lot from DJ Chark. Also, going over the middle of the field, just straight 9 route. Those are the 3 routes that I'm looking at for DJ Chark. One thing that I just thought of too is, what is Derius Davis' role going to be in this offense? Because he's a guy that I really liked last year. Wanted to see him get a lot more playing time. And now it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room, and we're looking at him. Here's a hot take. Could he be on the roster bubble?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you're talking about a Pro Bowl or all pro kick returner as a rookie last year.
He was, I think, the best one.
Yeah. I think they carry 6 wide receivers. Returner, yeah. I think they carry 6 wide receivers, and he's on there primarily as a return man. You see him used maybe in the backfield, maybe on reverses every once in a while, the occasional manufactured touch on like a smoke screen or something. But I think he's there strictly for the most part to return. And then you've got Palmer and McConkey and QJ and Rice and Chark all filling very specific roles.
Luke Benson, the undrafted free agent from Georgia Tech, he played in the backfield at Georgia Tech. He actually, fun fact, had the longest touchdown for Syracuse by a tight end in their school history. It was like 89 yards, something like that. So he has some receiving ability as well. He just wasn't given the opportunity at Georgia Tech. But he was a pretty good blocker. He's very athletic. He hurdled somebody. I forgot what game it was, but it was one of, like 10 catches or something he had last season. But he was used mostly as an inline tight end. He was used in motion a lot, used in the backfield, used as a fullback, used in the slot. You talk about versatility. That's something that you really want in this offense, and that's something that this coaching staff has been saying that they want a lot of. Joe Ortiz has as well. I think Luke Benson is a guy that you shouldn't really sleep on because of that athleticism and that ability to play multiple positions. If Ben Mason doesn't make this team, I could see Luke Benson playing a little bit of fullback here and there whenever they want to. But also Zach Hines, he's a big freaking 6'7".
It's like 260.
That dude is big. Like he could play tackle maybe, but he's a pretty good blocker. He gives a lot of effort there. Tends to lunge a little bit. He needs to work on his hands, work on his technique, and get his hands and feet working in unison to really become like a true good tight end blocker like Will Dissly is. But there are some guys there that could play fullback. I think Zach Hines, probably don't want him at fullback because he's a little too big, not as fast. When I think of a fullback, I think of a guy like Luke Benson that can play fullback and tight end in today's NFL.
Who do we see Lat McConkey as being in this offense? Do we see him as a volume wide receiver? Do you see him as the de facto wide receiver 1, even though he won't technically be wide receiver 1, because generally when you're looking at a depth chart, that's your X wide receiver. But when we're talking targets, so high volume, yardage, receptions, is he going to be the stats guy from a receptions and yardage perspective? Is that who we see him being in this offense?
PPR monster to help kind of move the chains, be this short and intermediate guy, and set up those second and third and shorts. Just because he's so good underneath with his route running and everything, they're going to have a bunch of quick hitters for him, and he's going to get open a lot.
Yeah, having a really good, crisp route runner like that. Justin Herbert said he's come in already playing like a 4 or 5 year vet. He's really good at running routes right to the spot, right to that third down marker and getting that first down. He had 37 targets last year, caught 30 balls, so pretty efficient in terms of receptions. He also got open a lot more and wasn't targeted by Carson Beck. But that's a guy who can burn you deep, and he can just make you look goofy in the middle of the field and in the short area because he is so quick and he just a really, really good route runner. Does a lot of the little things really well. The thing with him, he's got to stay on the field, got to stay healthy. So I don't know if he's going to be like the leading wide receiver in terms of production, but he absolutely can be.
It's a collection of receivers with different talents, and we're talking about having a high-level quarterback that's going to up the game of everyone around him. So it's one of the things that happens, man. When you pay a quarterback, you have to find different ways to manufacture, well, talking about offense overall, specifically in the passing game. You got to put points on the board, and you have to elevate the play of the guys around you. So now is the time when we're going to see Herbert really show who he can be in the offense. You know, no more Keenan Allen, no more Mike Williams. You've got guys around you, so you're the guy now. So it's
No
your
more
time.
crutches.
There you go.